Bam.
This is William Keck, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
You have one of those jobs that you think about when you're a kid, at some point, and you landed it, and you get to, and you get access to this amazing world, talking about celebrities, writing news about them, and everything. And it's a fascinating thing. When you do look back over decades of doing this, and you think about how you got started, is it even possible to do this job today? Is the way you approached it, or is that door completely shut?
It seems like everything has changed for a variety of reasons. First of all, the Enquirer just doesn't have the power that it did, and it doesn't seem it has the reporters there that are willing to do what we did. I'm not sure who's running the Enquirer now. But they don't have bylines anymore. Everything's kind of mysterious as to how they get these stories. And it seems like they kind of pick up a lot of other people's stories. But no, when we were there back in the day, we went in the trenches. They spent a lot of money to get to the truth. They paid a lot of sources to get to the truth. Today, a lot of celebrities are breaking their own stories. I think when it comes time for Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez to make it official, it's not going to come from the Enquirer. It's going to come from them, directly from their social media, saying we asked for privacy during this difficult time and our attention's on the children. That just seems the way that it's done now.
Yeah. It's easy to point a finger at the media and when you're a celebrity and say, oh my gosh, look at these people doing all these things. And I guess, to be fair, sometimes you read the headlines of an Enquirer or whatever. I mean, look, the next time Anna Nicole Smith is on the cover of something on a grocery store newsstand, it's not going to be the first to last. That lady can't be dead enough. They're always bringing her back to life. So there is some fair critique there. But how do you handle that professionally when you're out doing your job? I mean, you're trying to do this. You don't want to get sued. You're trying to do this legitimately. But how do you hold yourself accountable within your industry when it is so aliens and predictions and all these things that go into these kind of things?
Well, when I joined the Enquirer, and this was back in the 90s, it was right before the OJ thing exploded. I was a big part of it. The first thing everyone said was, so you're going to be reporting on three-headed babies and Elvis sightings and, senators who are aliens. And I said, no, that's actually not the Enquirer. A little further down the news rack, there were tabloids like the Examiner and the Sun. And they did those things. One of the most famous characters they invented was Bat Boy, who would appear every few months. They were fun, pure fiction, pure fantasy. We reported the news. We worked hard to get to the truth. And then what happened was a lot of times they would embellish. Every time they would embellish. It was never quite strong enough, the truth. They wanted to make it just amped up to have that sensational headline that would sell more papers.
Yeah, the sensationalism, right? And look, that's always existed, I suppose. Did it get worse in the 90s? I mean, you can definitely lay some responsibility at the paparazzi's feet for Lady Princess Di, whatever she was at the time, for her dying. You could also blame the drunk French guy that smashed him into a pillar, and so is it worse now? Was it worse then? Was it worse before? I mean, you think about like all the hush hush kind of, bylines like so-and-so's gay, these kind of things where you legitimately, that could be a physically dangerous thing for someone back then. Is it always like this, or has it had different times where it's been worse than other times?
Well, there were a lot of questions in there. So, I mean, the gay thing, they never fully outed somebody. They would find little clever ways to do that. I remember when I was at the Enquirer, it was, why can't Rosie O'Donnell stay out of lesbian bars? That thing, why is Ellen taking so many vacations with her gal pals? That kind of thing. I think that in the last 20 years, because Ellen came out, because Rosie came out, because Ricky Martin came out, that it's not that shocking thing that it was. Right. And I think it's seen as really disrespectful to play with people's sexuality that way. But in terms of the other issues, in terms of accountability, everybody sort of dealt with things differently. When I was in a situation, in an interview, I usually owned it. I usually said who I was. I wanted to get quotes on the record. There were certainly times when I was called to do something so deplorable that I had to play actor or spy to get in there and to get to the truth. And I write about all that in the book. I don't hold anything back. It's my mea culpa. I confess everything and take responsibility for it, and ask for apologies among the people who are still alive.
Your book is called "When You Step Upon a Star," and I'm going to put the link up for the book. My show stuff got a little messed up when I restarted my computer, but I'll be doing that while you talk about this next thing. You may or may not know, I used to be a spy, and a lot
Oh,
of the things we do are very similar. Absolutely, we are salespeople. Absolutely, we are networkers, and we have to be able to go and sit across from someone and get them to give us something that they normally wouldn't want to do. And whether it's through trickery or charm or everything else, you're trying to create a relationship and not only do it once, but be welcome to come back. Hey,
right.
Pete's here. Hey, William's here. Come on back. Well, you're a great friend of mine, you know. And so talk a little bit about the development of that skill, because look, when you're young, at least in my world, you're trying to influence everybody. You think you control every conversation, and that is about as ham-handed a way as you can do it. You're talking about, like, cutting your steak with a cleaver. Like, hey, calm down, slow down. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to always be trying to convince everybody. So, how does that work in your world?
Well, I think we probably have a lot of the same tricks of the trade. It sounds like, when you see a cop movie and the cop is there interrogating a suspect, they'll give him a cup of coffee and, hey, man, I'm your friend. I'm just trying to help you out here. They share things about themselves. And I find that often relaxes people and makes them feel comfortable to open up about their own secrets and stories. So that was a big thing that I did. And also at the time, I was in my early to mid 20s. I didn't look like a typical National Enquirer reporter. They opened the door and here I was, this little Opie, Richie Cunningham character there. And I think some of them just kind of felt sorry for me that I was being sent to do these things. They took pity, and a lot of them invited me in and gave me some water and gave me some scoop.
Yeah.
It was great. And then they would see sometimes what happened with that story, that it was embellished. Sometimes the people in the Lantana, Florida office, they would just kind of take my reporting and then become creative writers. And I would see the newest show. I'd be like, wait a minute, that's not the story that I turned in. And then they would see that and they'll be like, man, maybe I won't let this guy in the house next time.
Yeah. So what do you do with that the next time you have to go back and sit in front of, I don't know, Goldie Hawn or whatever it is, and they're like, hey, you burned me last time. That isn't what happened. I mean, how do you fix that?
I sent a lot of apology bouquets of flowers with notes, a lot of muffin baskets, and I was able to expense all those. Luckily, the Enquirer, they were very generous with my apology bouquets. And it depends on the celebrity. Some people just really wanted to get press. Some celebrities like Roseanne Barr and her husband at the time, Tom Arnold, if they weren't in the Enquirer, they would get upset and they would do something that week to get back in the Enquirer. They played with it. It was just kind of a fun toy for them. Other celebrities would call me with stories that they were in the hospital or that they'd been hit by a car. Or, I mean, one of my favorite stories is Zsa Zsa Gabor. Her husband. Zsa Zsa. Yeah, right. There's a whole chapter on Zsa Zsa. She had this husband, Prince Frederick von Anhalt, this prince who had bought his princedom, his principality, or whatever you want to call it, his right to call himself prince. And Zsa Zsa married him, and then she became Princess Zsa Zsa, and they were on Hollywood Squares. Well, he always wanted to be in the Enquirer. He was a source of mine. I would pay him actually for information on Zsa Zsa. And he called me one time to say that he had been kicked out of Bally's Health Club because he was wearing a very fancy French Speedo, a white Speedo. And the ladies at Bally's said that they could see his words, manhood, through the Speedo. So I said, all right, well, let's do a story on this. So I took Freddie, Prince Frederick, to the Beverly Hilton pool, and we did a before and after shot. We did a dry shot with him standing by the pool. He went into the pool. We took a shot of him and left it up to the readers to see if they could see enough of a VPL, visible penis line, to warrant his being kicked out of the club. But he loved the story. I mean, you would think people would be horrified. Zsa Zsa was horrified. She hated when he did these things, mortified, but he couldn't stop.
It's funny to think about Zsa Zsa being mortified by anything. She was such a character, like, and I'm just saying Zsa Zsa, but there are so many people in in the entertainment business that do want and need the attention. I mean, just to stay relevant, right? Like, what's Tom Arnold going to do? He's going to play with the Enquirer and be in the theater of the absurd, and then he's going to get a gig on the best damn sports show, period. And his job is to be Tom Arnold there as well. So it is a little bit funny to like, hey, Zsa Zsa, like look at you. I mean, she's almost like, there's no disrespect to Zsa Zsa because she plays a character in life and she's her own person, but she's a huge personality when she's around back then.
Oh, totally, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, it's all the celebrities want to be, they want good press. I mean, some of them choose to live a quiet life, like Harrison Ford. You don't read about him. He lives a lot of his life in the Midwest or on a ranch.
Right.
But the others, a lot of them sell their weddings to the highest bidder. People Magazine, Vanity Fair, InStyle was a big one for a while. But if you're not getting offers from those, then you take an offer from the Enquirer. And sometimes they would just give them coverage. Other times they would pay for the wedding, pay for security. Yeah. So it was all of, where you were in your career and what you could get out of it.
Some of the stuff, and again, I'm gonna put us together professionally, because there's stuff that I have to do because I'm playing a very dangerous game, and it's war and it's life and death. And so the morality of what I do is different. But you have a similar thing where the job is the job. And right now there's been this tragedy, there's this news story, and your job is to, like, people can grieve, people can do this, people can do whatever later on. You approach Nicole Brown Simpson's family and you get an interview with them right away. A lot of people would be like, that's too grotesque, I can't do that. But again, the job is the job, right? And so we have to say, hey, this is the line, and I'm not over it. I'm okay with this because my job is to tell this story.
Yeah. I mean, I say that it's kind of like a mafia mentality where you would be asked to do these horrible things, but then when you pull it off, you would get praise. You would get bonuses. You would get raises. The whole system was set up to encourage you to continuously do these deplorable things that you normally would not have ever thought to do. You can think of it like a hard coach, who's just beating these guys into submission, or an army sergeant, like boot camp. So the story you referenced, 3 days after Nicole Brown Simpson had been laid to rest, my editor asked me to get into the family of Nicole Brown Simpson, to get into their gated community and get the first at-home interview. And this wasn't like a Barbara Walters or Diane Sawyer set up interview in advance.
Right.
They said, go there. So as I said, they were in a gated community. I tried flower deliveries. I tried to deliver groceries to the front gates, and the guards were they were prepared to turn everybody away. So I said, I can't do it. And he said, oh, come on, Keck, you can do it. You can find a way, get in there. So I did. I parked my car at the Ritz-Carlton next door to this gated community in Orange County. It was actually Laguna Niguel is where it was. And I hopped a wall, ran on the beach in a suit and tie, hopped another wall. I worked my way up to the front door of the Brown family's house. I rang the doorbell. The housekeeper answered, said, how can I help you? I said, I'm here to see Mrs. Brown. She led me into a room, and there was Nicole's mother, Juditha, and her three sisters, sitting around a photo of Nicole crying. And Mrs. Brown took my hand in hers and said, thank you so much for coming. How did you know my Nicole? Wow. So that was, and I didn't think any of this would happen. I never thought I would get this far. I had nothing prepared. I decided to tell the truth. And she said, well, what do you want? You've made such an effort to come into our home. What are you here for? And I had no answer. So I just thought of a question. It was the right question. I said, I guess I'd like to know how you told your grandchildren that their mother was in heaven. And she gave me a beautiful story about how she sat the children down and told them their mother was an angel looking out for them. And now the children had four mommies, the grandmother and the three aunts. And I ran the story exactly as she told it to me. They were pleased, I think, and pleasantly surprised by the accuracy. And what happened is, Pete, that ended up establishing a relationship between the Enquirer and the Brown family. It lasted many years, and they used the Enquirer to be Nicole's mouthpiece, sharing with us private things that would help change the narrative from all about OJ to more coverage about the victim.
Right. Yeah. And this is one of the things, again, where, like, in our world, I like to say, I guess, even running this show, I don't assume that Mama Brown is going to say no. I don't borrow the no. I just go there and I ask, and maybe I call, maybe I email, whatever. And if they say no, you're like, okay, great. Let me ask them why. You're still like trying to figure it out. But a lot of times you get there, and I know you've had this happen to you. You reach out to someone and you're like, you know what? I was just thinking about talking about this, and I'm so glad you called. And you happen to be the first one on the door because you had the initiative to ask, and now you have the opportunity to talk to this person that nobody else can get.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you would just catch people at the right time through unanticipated circumstances.
Right.
I've always been a huge fan of Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman, and I let my editors know if there's ever a chance to interview Lee Majors or Lindsay, please let me know. And one day they say, hey, it's your lucky day. We have a Lindsay Wagner story for you. I'm like, great. Where do I get to meet her? You get to meet her at her father's funeral. So I approached her and I told her that we had photographs of her. I pointed to the photographer across the street in the bushes. He got up and waved. And she said, well, if you have your photos, what do you want? And I said, well, I guess I like a caption. And she said, okay, I'll give you a caption. F you. And I completely understood. Well, what we really wanted, we didn't care about a story about her father having passed. She was dating a much younger man at the time. So we wanted a story about a May-December romance. And at the time, she and her boyfriend were trying to start a Native American jewelry line. So she actually grabbed onto this opportunity, took control of the narrative. And in the end, it was a lovely story about their jewelry. So it ended up being a win-win situation. Another time I was sent to Hawaii to do a prison interview with Adam West, Batman, TV's Batman's daughter, who was in prison for trying to kill her in-laws. Adam West, he found out I was in Hawaii. He called me and he said, I want to thank you for being in Hawaii and getting to the truth of this story. Again, he took control of the narrative, gave me photos of him with his grandsons. And in the end, the story was Grandpa Batman to the rescue, raising kids while their mother does time.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a connection for you in the PR companies that are doing damage control? And they're like, hey, let's call William because, he's going to give us a fair shake and tell the truth.
Well, the Enquirer stories were only at the beginning of my career. I was only with the Enquirer for 3 years, and then I quit to go legit.
Right.
For USA Today and Los Angeles Times and People and Weekly. I was a columnist, senior editor, and then a TV producer, Emmy-nominated. So in that world, then yes, people would come to me with things to break. I remember when I was at USA Today and Patrick Stewart from Star Trek The Next Generation, Jean-Luc Picard, he was getting divorced. His publicist called and chose to break the story of the divorce through me, through USA Today. So yeah, that would happen. Not so much the Enquirer.
Right.
Yeah.
That is, I don't typically give a bio because I like folks to go and look for your stuff. I'm gonna put your link up for your webpage right now for everybody to go check that out.
Okay,
but here's the thing is LA Times, Discovery Channel, NBC. I mean, I just hit 3 totally different things and they're all pinnacle of where they're at. Is there, when you're managing all these choices, all these options, all these organizations, and then they change over time, how do you, that's a whole different part of your business, right? Like managing that portion of your business, like, who you're doing business with, is like, we got to put, the LA Times to the back burner for a while because they're crazy over there. But now I'm going to have, how do you manage that aspect of where you are going to work? Where are you going to sell your stories? And then, probably at some point, you get into the more producer, like I want to be more in control of my stories. So talk a little bit about that evolution, if you would.
Well, I was, when I was on staff at the Enquirer, or I was on staff at USA Today for 5 years, TV Guide for 6 years, Home and Family at the Hallmark Channel. I was produced there for 7 years. I was strictly with them, so there was no shopping around stories.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then in between those gigs, when I was freelance, whoever was going to hire me, then I was working for them exclusively for that story. So that's the way it worked. Wherever I was, I gave my all to the person who offered me a chance to sit with these people, meet with these people, stalk these people, whatever it was. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I guess there are good clients and there are bad clients when you are, freelancing. And are you afforded the ability to say, oh my gosh, ABC print is horrible. I am not going to, like when they call, they are not going to get my top attention. I'm going to do something else. Or how do you manage that part of the business? Because that must be a thing. Like, who's easy to work with, who pays slow, who pays great, who gives bonuses, that kind of thing.
Well, Pete, actually and honestly, when you work for the Enquirer, everybody else is an angel. I mean, I've had no issues with any of my employers.
Oh, okay, good.
I left National Enquirer. And listen, to be quite fair, I overall had a really great experience with the Enquirer. They paid me very well. They took really good care of me. I'm friendly with them. Some of them have supported the book. I dedicate my book to my bureau chief at the Enquirer, a man named Jerry George, who passed away very recently, but left me with some amazing life lessons about choose your battles, be true to yourself. So I have great memories of those people. We all worked very, very hard.
I love it. I've put the website up here. I will do it again, just down below, right there.
Yeah.
When you stepuponaStar.com, that's the site for the book. Is there another site you want me to promote besides that? Because I'll put that in the link here too.
Well, I mean, that's great. When you stepuponaStar.com, I offer chapter synopses, little teases of the chapters to get a sense of that. I have a list of all the celebrity endorsements, some wonderful quotes from Henry Winkler and Lindsay Wagner, who has come around. Many other celebrities who offered me very nice things. And you can go and purchase the book through that on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com or Kindle or Apple Books. But yeah, I mean, When You Step Upon a Star is also my Instagram handle and my Facebook handle. Twitter is Step Upon a Star. So I kind of try to make that a little franchise here. We'll see how that goes. If there's going to be T-shirts or mugs down the line, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows, right?
I just yesterday was the publication date, so this is all brand new.
Yeah, we're just blasting you with stuff today, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me here. I want to ask a little bit about when I grab my gear and I go to someone's house. I've not been able to do it for a couple of reasons here lately, but when you do an interview at someone's home, it's the most curious thing that I've discovered is like you've got this world famous musician in this case, and you sit down and this person says, "Hey." They become the host. Hey, do you want some cookies? Because I made some. And you're like, you made cookies for me. And they're like,
yes.
Yeah, well, I didn't know if you'd want to eat something. And you're like, this person who's been on the front of Rock and Roll Whatever magazine, it has made me cookies and has become the host. And so then now my little spy brain goes, oh, I don't have to work so hard. Like I'm their guest. Now I can ask questions and there's a wall that's been taken down. Does that at all resonate with you?
Oh my God, totally, Pete. Well,
yes.
We talked about how one of the tricks of the trade was to share some of yourself, to kind of put them at ease, create kind of a rapport as if you're friends, as if you haven't just met and you're about to conduct an interview. When you go into someone's domain, they want to do the same. They want to have a very good experience. They want to be treated well by the reporter, to be portrayed well in the story. So I remember I have a chapter in here about Dick Van Dyke. He had a problem with a few things I did, but when I went over to his home in Malibu, his wife had prepared me fresh squeezed lemonade. I was the reporter on set of The Desperate Housewives. Any other reporter, I ended up going to almost all of their homes. And when I went to Eva Longoria's home, which was about 10 houses up from mine, she made me huevos rancheros in her kitchen. And when I went to Terry Hatcher's home, she had prepared a sushi tray for me. It was incredible, delicious. Right. And then Marsha Cross, like her character, Bree Vandekamp on Desperate Housewives, she prepared me fresh muffins. It was wonderful. And I had a wonderful experience at her home until I asked her about nude photos that had leaked that morning. That just torpedoed the entire day. It was awful. I reached out to Marsha when I was writing this book, and she very generously and kindly contributed a page from her perspective about what the experience was like for her. And that actually inspired me to reach out to many other celebrities who have done the same thing. I crashed Melissa Gilbert's wedding. She's written a page. Bruce Willis threatened to burn my house down. And since he can't talk at the moment, very sad, his moonlighting co-star Sybil Shepherd contributed a page in my book about her thoughts on that threat that he made.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, like these folks know they're pros, they're doing their job, and you did pose when you were 18. And so it's a fair question, right? And some of them have to feel that way, and they maybe are shocked in the moment, but I imagine a lot of them, kind of get over it because this is the business that you guys are in. You're the one who talks about what they did or do.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many times a publicist would say, "I'm never going to work with you again," until they needed me, and then a few weeks later, hey, it's me. You know what? Let's just put that in the past. I have this client looking for. Yeah, these things are temporary. Hopefully, you can get past things and move on, like in life.
Yeah. Did you have some kind of talisman or some kind of person who you could say, "Hey, am I getting too far out of bounds on this?" I mean, because it is, you are in people's lives, and a lot of times people are burning their own lives down, and you have to be right there. How do you do a self check to make sure that your center, your character is where you need it to be, so that you can do your job, but also make sure you're accountable to yourself?
Yeah. Well, like you said, it is a self check. It's my Jiminy Cricket. I mean,
Right.
there's always this little angel on one shoulder saying, "Oh no, 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 don't do that." And the devil, "Oh yeah, come on, you can do it, you can do it. You have a right to find out this juice." I always knew what was right and wrong. It's just a matter of my
Yeah.
choice. A lot of times I chose the wrong thing because it was
Yeah.
my job, but I did choose the right things. I was in a high-speed chase with Britney Spears that 90 miles per hour down the 405 that I saw out till the end. But then when I was chasing Elizabeth Taylor, she was going to the hospital for surgery. I'm like, what am I doing? And I
Yeah.
pulled
Yeah.
over on the side of the street and I let her go.
Yeah. Yeah. It,
Yeah, I
and
knew
that's,
I shouldn't
yeah.
have asked Marsha Cross about these nude photos. It wasn't necessary.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, my editor would expect me to. And Marsha said, no, no, no. This was you, Will. You made this decision. And she was absolutely right. And I say that in the book. I'm
Mhm.
responsible for every decision I made, for the better or for the worse. I take
This is the big thing.
responsibility.
Yeah. When like when I if I don't have a good interview with you, and it's not the case, we're having a great time, but
Oh, good.
it's on me. It's on me. It's my show. It's my interview. It's my thing, right? And so it doesn't matter if the person's an asshole or if I'm not able to crack through a person who I know is tough. It's on me. I didn't do my job. That's how I look at
Hmm. Yeah, no, I don't agree with that.
that. Okay, good.
I mean, there are some times I would always beat myself up. Why did I ask that question? Why didn't I forget that? Why did I forget to ask that question? But no, there were certainly times when
Yeah.
I was aware that I was just across a very boring person, and they were just not willing to give me what I needed.
Yeah.
And then there were other times where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is juice. I mean, this person has handed me a story. I remember I went to Brad Garrett when he was doing a show after Everybody Loves Raymond. I went to his home, and it was supposed to be an at-home family interview. And
Yeah.
Brad took me aside before we started and said, Will, I got to tell you something. My wife's not going to be here because we're getting divorced. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be an interesting story. It's not the story that I expected.
Right.
I believe that he actually didn't cancel the interview. He let me tell the story, and I told it in a very responsible way. And he wrote me a lovely letter afterward and said, I'm going to save this story and I'm going to show it to our kids to see how much mommy and daddy loved them through this. Brad even put me on the phone with his wife that he was divorcing to give me her take on things. So, I mean, that's an unexpected gift of a compelling, fascinating story.
Yeah. Yeah, the good things, right? The sweet things you discover. And I suppose I should say, and then back off my statement a little bit. Yeah, I take it as my responsibility if it doesn't go well. But some people, it's just not going to go well, And so, am I going to go try to find Johnny Rotten to interview? Hey, no thanks. He's available. I'm just not going to work that hard at it. But yeah, sometimes you look and you go, there really wasn't anything else I could have reasonably done. I'm not omniscient, and sometimes things do go bad. And sometimes, by the way, like today, I'm kind of limping with my equipment. Sometimes the equipment doesn't cooperate. In some number of interviews, you're just like, I don't know what to do about that. Just got to let it go.
Sure. Well, I mean, to be clear, Pete, I mean, every single story in my book it went horribly wrong. I mean, every one of them. That's the theme. I say in the beginning of the book that over my career, I've done hundreds, thousands of interviews that went really, really well, where the author was happy, the publicist was happy, my editor was happy. But I find those aren't the stories that people want to hear. They really gravitate toward the stories that, for whatever reason, went horribly, horribly wrong, where I put my foot in my mouth, where I asked that little too invasive question, where I stole someone's garbage. I did that, or I chased them, or I crashed their funeral. I crashed their wedding. Horribly, horribly wrong. Sneaking into hospital rooms to find out what someone was dying from, or to get a baby's name that had just been born. I did it all.
Did it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people often say no regrets, but Regrets?
Well, yes, but I feel like my conscience is clean. All my regrets are in this book, and I decided it kind of happened organically. Every chapter ends with a lesson learned. You either learn from your mistakes or you don't. And I saw that I absolutely did learn. I share those lessons, and I do think that they're lessons that people can relate to and apply to their own lives, no matter what situation they're in.
Yeah.
So that was a nice little bonus I added toward the end of the book.
I love it. Yeah, just so you guys know, the book is called When You Walk, Step Upon a Star, and the link is right down there. You know what I always say? Buy two and buddy read. Buy one for a friend and go through, and I imagine you'll be greatly entertained. I can't wait. I got a copy showing up myself, so I'm looking forward to burning through that because.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, no, of course. Listen, this is what's the fun of talking about this thing without getting the benefit of reading it? It's one of the great things about this kind of work is we get to share each other's stories, and I love it.
Thank you. Hopefully, you'll burn through it and not just burn it. You may want to burn it for me.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the end.
Oh yeah. Would you have done things differently? I mean, obviously a book full of regrets. Would you have like, man, if I would have told myself at this age, at 25 or at 30, you know what, a little more of this, a little less of that. But would you have listened at 25 or 30?
We don't. Nobody can change their mind when we're 25, maybe 30. You start to listen.
Yeah.
But no, you're kind of fearless. You're defiant. You're on your own. You're breaking away from your parents.
Yeah.
So no, what I find is in life, I really regret the things I didn't do more than the things that I did.
How does that work?
Well, I mean, one of the themes in my book, which we haven't talked about, is the hypocrisy that while I was snooping into all these celebrities' private lives, I was keeping my own secrets. I was deeply in the closet about being gay while I was poking into celebrities' own marriages and private lives. So I think I found that it was easier to keep the focus off of me by just getting involved in their secrets. So when I did decide to just come clean and be who I was, be true to myself, that went hand in hand with me leaving the Enquirer. I wasn't going to lie to myself in my private life, and I wasn't going to lie for a living anymore.
I dig it. And then does that give you bona fides now when you go out and do your work? Like does that give you credentials when you go out and you're talking like, I've come to this realization where I'm not going to lie to myself. I'm not going to lie professionally. I'm going to do these things. Does that unlock things for you? Access, capability, internally or externally? Does it change?
Internally. It's just a matter of when I became a happier person, I didn't feel a need to just stir up so much. Can we swear on this show? Or
say what the fuck you want.
Stir up so much shit. I didn't want to cause people misery because I wasn't feeling misery. And I felt that I could find ways to tell funny, compelling, interesting stories without shaming somebody.
Right.
Yeah. So in the interviews I do now, I see people where they're about to hang themselves, and the old me would have just grappled onto that and then just buried them. That's maybe a little severe, but yes. But now I find that I want to protect them. I came to Hollywood 30 years ago to meet all these people. That's another premise, is that my father died when I was 5. I was an only child. I sort of latched on to the Bradys and the Carringtons of Dynasty and the Cartwrights of Bonanza and of Happy Days. These were my surrogate families, and my surrogate dads were Dick Van Patten and Michael Landon and no one more than Robert Reed from the Brady Bunch. And I just wanted to come out here and meet them all, and I did. I got to be a Brady yesterday. I got to be on the Brady Bunch podcast with Christopher Knight and Barry Williams, talking about the times that I'd messed with them. Barry Williams said, I got to tell you, I hated you for a while, but now I like you now. And so now we're buddies. So this book has really been a chance for me to clean up the past, make amends, and make some new friends out of my old enemies.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because of my show, I've become friends with a lot of people that are on the show because, they come back again and again. And next thing you know, you're like, hey, let's go hang out. And you're hanging out with these people. And I'm not like, oh, I'm hanging out with, whoever famous person. I'm just hanging out with my friend Jay. But one of my friends is Jay Moore, right? Met him through the show.
Yeah.
I don't ask him for things. Like, we may talk about some stuff we may or may not be serious about doing down the road, like friends do. but I don't go there, to be dazzled. I go there because I love the guy, and we're friends. And yes, he has done some messed up stuff because he's an addict, but friends
Sure.
also look and go, yeah, he's done some fucked up stuff because he's an addict, but you know what? He's my friend. And so we're going to hang out, and I don't get enough of his time, and likewise with him, because we're busy. But surely you must have picked up some of these things along the way where you're like, I can't believe I have this fantastic relationship with so and so. You don't got to say who it is, but
Yeah, no,
that
I just got off the phone with one of my idols before we started, and we're working on something together. Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's yeah, I mean, I have some great friends. I had a lot of them at my book signing, the launch at the Barnes and Noble at the Grove just a couple days ago. That was great.
yeah,
And I have some people who are friends who people know, who are in the spotlight. A friend's a friend, right?
yeah. My friend Jay had one of these things. My friend Jay, he's just a regular working dude, but he's skateboarded the entire time there's been, skateboarding. And so he's become friends with all of his heroes. And I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago, he found, yeah. So one of his really good friends is Steve Caballero. Like they're like best friends. And so whenever Steve and Tony are together, Tony's like, hey, we're all going to go to, and this is like dream world crazy. Like, what the hell? And so they go to Cheesecake Factory. This is all 100% true.
I love
And,
this.
and so Tony's like, yeah, you guys get whatever you want. And it's like all this who, if you're in skateboarding, it's the who's there, and they're all there and everything. And my buddy Jay is there.
The one in Marina Del Rey, or which Cheesecake Factory?
Probably the one down in Carlsbad or something.
Oh,
those guys all there, right? Okay. Anyhow, he's like, I'm sitting there, and Tony Hawk's like, hey, Jay, because he knows him, do you want to get some cheesecake? You want to split one with me? It's got to be surreal to have these moments. Again, like you have Terry Hatcher making you sushi and all these things. Sometimes you have to step out of yourself and be like, I can't believe I'm doing this,
I think it was probably taken. I don't think she actually made the sushi, but
well, whatever.
But yes, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, it's cool. It's fun. It was fun. I don't take for granted any of these opportunities that I had.
Right. Yeah. How do you get out of the day-to-day, I got to find a story, I'm going to get into people's hospital rooms, to, I'm going to make things on my terms. I'm going to be producing things. I'm going to do harder stuff. Because it's hard to go run across the beach in a suit to go meet with the victims of a murder, right? But it's really hard to run all of the things you have to run to. I mean, I'm producing stuff, and it's just like amazing how difficult it is to get everything going in the same direction in a timeline that makes any kind of damn sense.
Well, I mean, at my age, it's just hard to run on the beach now, period. I don't know if I could do it in a suit and tie and loafers like I did back then. Yeah, I mean, I'm challenging myself. I do feel that in many ways, this book is a wrap up. Oh, hey, thank you. Oh, there we go. Oh, still toking with. That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
They're amazing guys. I know that threw me off. I was just so excited to see some friends on there, some new friends. What were you asking?
I was just saying.
Texting there, you ruined me. You threw me off. It was doing a great interview here.
Good. Yeah. No, that's good. I want you off your center a little bit. I was just saying. Gosh, what did I ask you? I asked you about running down the beach in your suit, in your loafers, and because producing, right? Producing, I would say, is harder than getting a story day in day out. A different kind of harder. It's more complex. How about that?
Yeah. No, so actually after my run at the print media kind of started to slow down. Print media really, is not what it was by any means. I went into producing, TV producing. I worked for the Hallmark Channel for, I think I mentioned 7 years. And what was great about that is I talked about how I had these surrogate TV families. At Home and Family, I was able to bring them all together for these 2-hour splashy reunion shows I produced. So I did a 2-hour Love Boat Christmas with all of them in their old Love Boat costumes, and I did a Christmas Knots Landing, and I did we had the Little House on the Prairie cast arrive in a covered wagon to our little house and had them play archery in the backyard, and had the Waltons, and we were all in costume. So that was a dream. So that was great. And now I'm still looking at what I can do with this fascination I have with nostalgia in a new way that I'm working on now.
Yeah. The Brady's. I've been watching Flipper. And you watch it with adult modern eyes. And as a kid, I loved it because you got boats and these kids are swimming all the time. They got a damn dolphin. Like, what's not to
Right?
love?
I remember that they call them Flipper.
Yeah,
Flipper.
flipper. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, from that, I realized how much I missed the quality of the music of the shows. Like, look, Flipper's not a great show, but there's chorus, there's live musicians sitting in a studio, probably CBS or somewhere, and they're blowing on horns and you're like, oh my God, this music is amazing. Like it's run of the mill for back then. But now to hear that, and it's not like some guy that's going on a machine. It's
totally agree with you. I mean, so charming. The other day we watched Romancing the Stone.
Great movie.
Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, Danny DeVito. Such a great movie. And what was so great is it was all real. Yeah. There were no special effects in that movie. You knew that they were doing those stunts. I mean, just like, Errol Flynn, did, back in the day, or like in the 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
And we're so used now to seeing all the CG world. It's in my mind, it's garbage. It's useless. I want to see real people doing real things. And especially now that everything's becoming AI and that movie stars are going to be replaced, I think, with AI characters. Seeing live events, live theater, I think is really going to have a resurgence in a big way, and especially real stunts. I really actually did enjoy the new Fall Guy movie. Of course, I was a big Lee Majors fan, so I wanted to see Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. And those stunts were all real. And it was so refreshing to go back in time, in the present.
Yeah. Did Ryan Gosling sing the Fall Guy song?
So in the closing credits, there were a few little winks. I mean, they did have Lee Majors and Heather Thomas kind of appear to catch the bad guys. Mm-hmm. And there was a new version of that song with changed lyrics. That was fun to hear that. Was Ryan singing it? I don't remember. If
that would be the move, right? Because Lee sang the first one. I think he's even credited as Colt Seavers singing it, right? I think that's how that went down.
But it was sort of like an homage to his own life because the opening lines were, Lee Majors was obviously married to Farrah Fawcett. It was not the kind of kiss and tell, but I've been seen with Farrah. It was sort of a wink to his true life. Ryan, we know, can sing. Ken, he did it at the Oscars. I'll come back. Maybe it was him.
Yeah. I haven't seen that movie, but like you, I loved it. I loved it at the time, and I can't remember his buddy's name. His last name is Bear, but I can't remember what his first name is. Did he get back into that movie, or did he not?
Gosh, I'm confusing things now because I know that there was Starsky and Hutch with like Sugar Bear.
No. It was like Colt's cousin who was getting into the.
Well,
that was the
I remember Doug Barr was.
Yes, that's what it was. Doug Barr. Yeah.
They had that character in there.
Oh man.
Yeah, or maybe a different version of it, but no, I don't remember that.
I've always said it's like the most miscast character. He's all tan, chiseled, and handsome, and he's like, "Oh no, Colt, don't make that turn." He's always afraid of everything, and I'm like, "Wrong dude." Great show, wrong dude. Anyhow, because Doug is not a little tiny person who's afraid of things. Doug is, going to be a stuntman like his uncle.
Right, the comic relief, I guess, the Barney Fife to Lee Majors, Andy.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I love to go and if I can get to Hollywood Bowl for any of those big things where they show, Casablanca or even Little Mermaid. And then this is the thing that people don't get about Hollywood. And if you go to one of the things that make the Hollywood Bowl incredible, they'll say singing the part of wherever Ariel is, fill in the blank, incredible person. And then, like Harvey Fierstein, I think, sang the part of Ursula. And you're like, oh, this is incredible, And
yeah, so cool. Yeah, the Hollywood Bowl is just an 8-minute walk from where we are. So we love to go down there. We're going to see Singing in the Rain with the LA Phil performing. So I'm so super excited about that.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it's going to rain. And you never hope it's going to rain in LA, but maybe for Singing in the Rain night.
When I saw Little Mermaid, it rained. And just enough to make the movie great, not enough to make you miserable enough to leave. Any more, we would have been like, too cold and too wet.
Fantastic. Yeah. I love going to those things. I didn't make it to Little Mermaid. And I know Lion King they just did with, I think it was Beyonce's daughter was in that cast.
Right.
So yeah,
it's always just incredible. There is so much talent. Has anybody really blown you away where you're like, man, this person can do anything? You've met him several different ways or whatever it is.
Wow, they can do everything.
Or just in general, like you're just blown away by the person who, because we don't get to see the real person very often. We
Well,
get hints at
sure,
it.
sure. I mean, I actually I don't know that I've met him outside of a red carpet quick interview, but Hugh Jackman. I think Hugh Jackman is somebody who can do anything.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
about to star in the Wolverine and Deadpool. That's going to be awesome, I think. And
Hmm.
he can do these big musicals. He can host the Emmys and the Tonys. And I saw him do a musical called The Boy from Oz on Broadway years ago. He's somebody I think who can do
Yeah,
anything and everything. Blows me away. Love
yeah. We did a thing. My special someone and I. We went to. They did Shakespeare in the Park at the VA area, and Tom Hanks was playing Falstaff. He was Falstaff in Falstaff. And then we went there, went off without a hitch, but it's theater, and there's no theater. It's just outside, and you look up and you see all of LA. So it's gorgeous. And you standing right next to us, we were like in the gangway where everybody walked by as they got ready for their parts. It's like, there's Tom Hanks. And you're not gonna go, hey Tom, like he's working, you leave him alone. But 2 nights later, one of the older veterans had like a medical emergency. And so, while they dealt with that, Tom just does 30 minutes on his own, just entertaining everybody because he's Tom fucking
Wow.
Hanks and not
How
at all
cool.
slowed down by that. And
When
so just,
when was that?
I'm going to say that's in 2018, 17. It's been a
Oh, that
while.
long ago. That's crazy. I
Yeah.
never heard that he did that.
I'll
What a
send you a link to the story. It was remarkable. It was such a neat thing to do.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
love that. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's neat. So I wanted to ask you about red carpet interviews because, so again, I'm going to bring you back into my world. So I'll go on a combat patrol, and I'm there, and I probably will never see these people again. So I've got one shot, and I've got to ask questions. I got to get something that nobody else in this patrol can get. Right? And that's my job, and I'm good at that. And so it's my form of kind of a red carpet interview. But you have a shorter time frame. I've got half an hour, maybe an hour, and then I'm out. Right? So
Yeah,
I've got to find someone, get the
yeah.
information from them. And if they're not good, I got to terminate the interview and find the next person, right? And so I kind of look at that, and I've always thought like this is kind of like red carpet type stuff, but I've never had the opportunity to talk to someone that's done that job, so I'm super excited about this. How does it relate to something like that? How do you master that skill set? And can you do it if you're an unknown, or does it help to have some credentials behind you?
Well, yeah, I do have a few red carpet interview stories in the book. Again, when they went wrong and one way or another. I remember I was at an event for Nicole Kidman, and at the time she was in a couple movies with Lauren Bacall, the legendary Lauren Bacall, married to Humphrey Bogart. And Lauren Bacall was just a horrible beast of a person. And she was okay with me, but I was next to my friend Monica, who was reporting for People, and Lauren Bacall was making fun of her questions. So Lauren would turn to me and say, "What a stupid question. Can you believe this? Oh my God, why did I come here?" Well, so I that was just so disappointing when you would see a legend that you loved and they would just be this horrible person. Another time I talk about how I was at the Emmys and I interviewed Kelsey Grammer. There's a lot of Kelsey Grammer in this book. I can't even begin to tell you how much. But I was talking to him about why he had never had Kirstie Alley on Frasier when all the other Cheers actors had guest starred on. Ted Danson, Shelley Long, and Woody Harrelson, Rhea Perlman, they'd all been on except Kirstie. And Kelsey said, "Well, we have invited Kirstie on, but she refuses to do the show." I said, "Why?" "Well, apparently it's because my character Frasier Crane is a psychiatrist, and Kirstie is a Scientologist, and they don't believe in psychiatry." So I was like, "Oh wow, that's a pretty kind of cool, interesting little scoop for Entertainment Weekly." So we reached out to Kirstie, and Kirstie decided to comment. And she said, "I'll give you a quote, but you have to print it exactly as I give it to you." And she said, "The only way I would ever do Frasier is if I could do Frasier." And we printed it. We thought it was fine, but somehow that got me on the Scientologist suppressives list, the distrustworthy, do not talk to journalist list. So years later, when it came time for me to do an at-home interview with Kirstie about a new show, 2 days before, Kirstie's camp called to tell me that I couldn't do the interview because I landed on this list. And it took me a while to figure out the connection about the Kelsey thing. But yeah, you never know. One little thing could turn out to be some big thing that comes back a few years later.
Yeah. How frenetic is that on the red carpet? Is how
Yeah. Yeah, no, the big problem is that you do have publicist friends, and you want to do them a favor and help their up and coming clients to get a little interview experience. But you know you're not going to ever need them. And I'm happy to do that, but the risk is that this person's going to be talking and you're going to miss Tom Hanks who's walking by. So you don't want to be in a situation where you say, no, I don't want to talk to somebody. But what's even worse is when you're talking to somebody and you say, oh, I'm sorry, I got to stop this interview because there's somebody I want more than you.
Yeah.
So it is this little dance of having to like speed things up. And I remember one time I was interviewing somebody. It was Jenna Elfman from Dharma and Greg, who also a Scientologist. And I was trying to wrap it up because it was somebody I really needed to talk to. And I was like, and she could tell that I was not really present with her. And so she actually made fun of me. She went, oh, and I said, Jenna, I'm sorry. I said, but I was told I had to get this person behind you. And she's like, oh, that's okay. So yeah, it definitely is a test of your social skills and getting out of these situations as gracefully as possible.
And how much information is coming into your ear, because you see these folks in real life, and sometimes they look different than they look on screen because you don't realize how big, how small, whatever they are. Look, it's your job to know what people look like and who they are, but it's got to be that you need help sometimes.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, absolutely. and I'll tell you the truth. I mean, I'm really not doing red carpets anymore, and a big reason for that is that I don't know who these people are. I mean, if you go into People magazine, you're talking about all these celebrities are reality shows from Bachelor in Paradise, and The Biggest Loser, and Bachelorette season 16. And I have no interest in these shows. These aren't celebrities as far as I'm concerned. And I as things started to go downhill, I was finding myself turning to the child reporter next to me and asking, who's that? Oh yeah, that was Amazing Race, season 16. Like, oh, So yeah, no, I mean, I feel like the definition of what a celebrity is has changed so dramatically from what it was when I was working these carpets.
So Lauren Bacall, clearly a celebrity icon, right? Bad attitude or not,
legend.
Right. So where does that line? Where, like, when someone pops above and they're like, oh, that person's for sure a celebrity, and they matter in the world.
that very Lauren Bacall moment that I just talked to you about, the problem with Monica was that Monica, it was an event for Nicole Kidman, and this was many years ago. And Monica asked Lauren, so what makes Nicole Kidman a legend? And Lauren Bacall said, oh no. She said, Nicole Kidman's a fine actress, but she's not a legend. It takes a while for someone to become a legend. And she was kind of right. And now I think just by process of elimination, since we've lost all of our true legends, that Nicole Kidman, I guess, is a legend, because that's what's left. So it's just a matter of where you are in your career, how you're viewed, what your success has been with your films. And who's in the mix still. I've been watching a lot of YouTube with the Celebrity Network stars, or just the superstars, when they do the athletes and everybody's running around like doing the obstacle course and rowing the boat and everything. And there's Battle of the Network Stars.
Yeah. Like Steve Bond from like Days of Our Lives, or whatever. He's out there running, and his shirt's kind of barely on and all this. It's great. I love it. It's so entertaining.
Steve Bond he was, I think, Jimmy Lee Holt from General Hospital is like, who Steve Bond was. Yeah, he was that Quartermain. I love Battle. I find that on YouTube, and those were amazing. And that also, Pete, shows how things have changed. I mean, back then in the 70s and early 80s, everybody would do this. They were paid really next to nothing. It was their summer vacation or hiatus from their shows, and they all just did it because it was fun. These managers and publicists weren't involved saying, oh, no, this person will only do it if they're team captain, or who else is going to do it. We want to find out it's a good caliber of people. I mean, they had all the hottest stars on television doing these shows. Henry Winkler and Heather Locklear, Tom Selleck. All Lee Majors, they were all doing. You would see Penny Marshall, Laverne and Shirley running the relay race next to Linda Carter from Wonder Woman. It was fabulous. Imagine now trying to do that show, trying to get well, I mean, this is years ago too, but trying to get Jennifer Aniston to appear on Battle of the Network Stars next to Jerry Seinfeld. There's no way that would have happened. The Game of Thrones cast, you know, I mean, against the Sopranos. I mean, it just everything has changed so much, and I missed that. I came a little bit after that whole period. What a fun time that was.
It was fun, and it was fun to have the athletes do it too. Like you've got all these different guys out there, and they're good at the sports and everything, but they're not good at all the sports, and so you get to see them kind of struggle. It was really neat, and then you get to see whoever Kirstie Alley, and she's doing the tug of war, and you're like, oh my god,
the tug of war, you know. The tug of war. There was a story.
They're fully in the dirt. They're doing it right.
I was interviewing some legendary star about his appearance on Battle of the Network Stars, and he was talking about how he was doing the tug of war, and the opposing team was just a few pounds overweight. So it was a matter of who are we going to replace, who are we going to lose, and instead of that, the team captain, who I think was Robert Conrad, he had his teammates go to the bathroom. They all had to go to the bathroom, and they couldn't come out until they were able to lose 3 pounds from the team. So I mean, just how wonderful. And the dunking booth. I mean, these big stars getting dunked and then just coming out looking so good. It never ever would happen. You know, they did try a few years ago to bring back Battle of the Network Stars, and all they could do was Battle of the Reality Stars.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a different time, and it's probably a time that we won't ever see again. And just like ABC when they did all their, I had Dean, what's his last name? From Little House on the Prairie, who just wrote his book and had him on the show.
Dean Butler, Dean Butler, yeah.
And we were talking about, like he got to be on Hotel, Fantasy Island, and Love Boat. And I'm like, man, Love Boat. All those shows were great, but Love Boat especially. And I don't know if you know this. I was in Cabo a couple of years ago during spring break time frame. But we're all adults. We're not doing spring break. Just that's the time frame. And there are 2 Princess Cruises ships out there in the bay. And one of them, the ship's horn blows out the first couple of notes of the Love Boat theme.
You're kidding.
I swear, it was true. And it did it 2 nights in a row. That's exactly it. Yeah, that was it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I've taken several Princess Cruises. I love Princess Cruises, and I love that cast. They're so sweet. Yeah.
I mean, and again, like you could have Charo be on there, or whoever it was going to be, and it was fun, and you didn't know, and like it was zany, and Fantasy Island actually I thought it was a great premise too, and it's a shame that we don't have those things, but the networks aren't as big and as powerful as they used to be either, right? And so to get 500,000 people to watch something.
Streaming now, streaming is what everyone's doing. Yeah.
Well, let me just plug the book one more time. So When You Step Upon a Star, there's the link down there. I keep looking on the wrong camera. That's what the link is. That's what you guys got to do. And you know what I always say, buy 2 and buddy read it. It's a great gift. Look, it's going to be entertaining. You heard all the great stories, and there are so many more in the books. And the celebrity stuff is great. Like when I'm reading the promotional materials, it is all great. Like Kelsey Grammer's stuff and everything.
Kelsey Grammer wrote about me in his book, and he, I think that we talked. He threatened me, and I have Dick Van Dyke said that Andy Griffith he wants Andy Griffith to put his little spotted hand in my face. I mean, there's all these there's lovely quotes from celebrities, but there are also these horrible insults as well. Leonard Nimoy, listen, Keck, you put any of that ear shit in this article, I'm out of this. I had asked Leonard Nimoy to put on the little Spock ears I was having him meet Zachary Quinto. Old Spock meets new Spock.
Yeah,
and I would suggest he bring his ears, and he wanted to kill me. So you never lose celebrities' soft spots. I have this thing about William Shatner, who I was friendly with, but I made the mistake of asking him how many horses he had. And he said, William. Oh, no, William. Would you ever ask somebody their salary? I said, well, no. Well, asking somebody how many horses they have is the same thing. So it's funny what set people off.
Is William Shatner a legend?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I mean, he's amazing. He is 90. What is he, 92 now or something? I don't know. But I had William Shatner as a guest in Home and Family many times. And I gave him a gift once that he really, really loved. And actually, there's a photo of the gift in the book. it hasn't been seen before unless you actually watch this episode. So this horse conversation I was having with Shatner was because he had a new book coming out called Spirit of the Horse, and talking about his lifelong love for horses, and how when he was younger, he would have dreams of himself running through the forest as a centaur. You know, his body was William Shatner with a chest, but his body was that of a horse. So I had our editor, who's also an artist, create a beautiful painting, a portrait of William Shatner as this centaur, and I had it framed, and he loved it, and he told me that he had it on display in his home, actually in his garage, but you know, his home adjacent. So yeah, people want to see an image of William Shatner as a centaur, then it's an extra bonus photo.
Yeah.
In Step Upon a Star.
I love it, man. This has been a real kick and a lot of fun. And I don't know, I love talking to folks who've had to do similar things where you have to go out and you have to get the information, right? And it's not always easy. And sometimes you got to bend the rules, and sometimes you have to say what rules, and then you get the job done and on to the next adventure. So I really personally,
I'm glad I survived. I'm glad that people gave me a second chance, and I'm glad I'm able to share my war stories with readers who might be interested in picking up a copy. I think it's a fun summer read.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be reading it. I'll let everybody know what I think. I'm sure I'm going to love it. But thank you again. Hang in, and I'll come back and say goodbye to you after I roll this little reel here.
Okay, hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you so much.